Good morning.
Hello. Do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you well.
Good. It's my first time using this Hopin application, so I was trying to do some background for myself.
Yeah, the same here. Actually, it's first time that I'm using this application.
I got a little bit stressed, so that's why I was trying to see if I should change anything but good that we are hearing each other.
Exactly. That's. I thought I will just unmute myself to just check. By the way, Carol, I work for Inca, so it's
Nice to meet
one of the
you.
organizations under IKEA brand.
Nice to meet you. Okay, understand. Cool. I saw in the invite. My name's Leila, working for H&M Group.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool.
Cool, exactly. So we are living with the culture, so we go early.
Exactly. Are you going to Glasgow or?
No, not. I mean, I'm based in Turkey, and there was. I mean, it's been a little bit story behind, but it's been a quarantine when you're coming from Turkey. You have to quarantine for 10 days, but it's been lifted up in 1st of November. But then I haven't planned for it. That's why I'm taking like I know almost every day one session through and I think we managed quite well. Helena going.
Good morning. Hi.
Good morning. Hi.
Hi, my name is Ylva Wetsen and I'm from Folksams.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. And I was glad to hear that you were already on, that we could test the technique. It's
I was saying to Carol, I mean, it's my first time for this application, so I was a little bit stressed if everything gonna look okay and etc. But it seems like we are all good.
Okay, and I realized that I can't use a background on this application, so I need to switch my camera and don't have my kitchen behind me.
Seems like there's no background, so I borrowed this flower from our living room just for that.
Yeah, I'm going to turn off my camera and mic and just try to remove my or to tell you my.
Okay. Sure.
But Carol, are you based in Stockholm or?
No, I'm based in Malmö in South Sweden. So we have majority of the global offices here in South Sweden.
Nice.
And then going tomorrow to Glasgow. So taking nice as well some of the events just remotely, and then joining on the ground for 8 days.
Good. Helena and a couple of my teammates from sustainability department traveling. It said I've been on backstage this year. Hopefully next year.
Yeah, it would be great to meet. Let's keep in touch as well.
Exactly. It would be wonderful.
Great. What are the key messages that you are bringing to the COP, if I can ask now?
Sure. It's a lot about ramping up our ambition levels, bringing industry, I mean, in a more holistic level, bringing industry together. But what we are bringing more about when it comes to climate, it's the coal boiler emissions, new targets that we will implement in value chain that Helena will talk about this Saturday. I mean, aligning with IFCCC, we will also take some measures on value chain when it comes to limiting coal boilers in especially materials part. This is going to be one of the key message. We hope that more to join us. And the second one going to be about the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and Circulytics when it comes to circular product development. So these are more like two. Okay. There's some more people, but I don't know. Is this right space future? Yeah, it seems like the right place for speakers. At least you're hoping that.
Exactly.
But these are two. What about yourself?
Yeah, it's first of all, showing the ambition and our commitment to halve the emissions across the value chain by 2030, and then one
by 2030 already.
Yes, yeah. So in line with IPCC to secure the halving emissions by 2050, and then of course net zero latest 2050. And the big part is renewable energy piece. So we committed 4 billion investments in renewable energy, and we actually concluded one of the first investments in Russia So we are looking to Russia, China, India, South Korea to secure investments in renewable energy currently. And of course, circular, big piece on different levels, engaging customers, as well as product design, circular flow, so holistic setup, and then materials.
Okay. Yeah. I think they are quite interconnected to each other, even with the social agenda. So that's the puzzle that we are trying to show in our industry, at least. I mean, it's impossible to work with one and not work with other. Everything, I mean, if you are working with the emissions, hopefully you are supporting biodiversity and resources. With doing that, you are supporting socials part when it comes to, I mean, well-being, food for nature.
Can I ask a question?
Hey, Björn.
Hi.
We were in. Hi.
Hey.
Are we on the right place?
We hope
this
so.
Is ramping up investment in climate solutions.
Yeah. Okay. And that meeting will start like 10 o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah, 13 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So
we were just chatting as we found each other here.
Yeah.
It was a little bit confusing to. I see Juni. He is here on the chat, but I cannot see him still on the screen.
Not true.
So I have, been involved in many of these platforms, but I think this platform was the most complicated thing I have ever been in touch with.
Agree.
So I really hope that all speakers are able to penetrate all these things. So there, at least Olarel is here.
I mean, that's why I was trying to connect a bit earlier to make sure that we have everything.
Hi.
Hi. Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
So that means that you are also now in the right place.
Finally in the right place. Because I think it's a bit tricky way of getting connected here. But hopefully
this is organized like an IQ test.
Yes, I understand. So I had to have some help, you know.
Can somebody answer Katarina?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can see and we can hear you.
Oh, wow. This was like running for OS, or I don't know. This was the most difficult thing I ever done in my life.
We all echo you.
Great to see you. So we haven't seen Juni yet.
No, he has been on the chat, but we have not seen him.
Luckily working.
Hi, do you hear me?
I can hear you. So I can see, I can almost see Odd. So great to see Odd. And Ylva, hi again. Great to see you, Ylva. And hi, Leila.
Hello.
Sounds great. Hi, Carol.
Hello, Nina. Nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you too. And hi, Jonas.
I agree. It was very complicated.
It's a mystery. So, and hi, Björn.
Hi.
Yeah. So, Björn, if Juni won't join us, should you and me take the call on carbon?
Yeah, but in that case, I think you just introduce it and then you just start introducing the panel.
Yeah. And hi, Odd.
Hi. Hello.
Hi. Great to see you.
Great to see you all.
Yeah. So we will see what will happen. So, and just to be sure, is anyone smart enough just to tell me, if I stay here and have my sound on, do you think it will work? We will jump when we start at 10. Do you think it's just, do we have to push a button or do something? Anyone knows?
No,
I think this will just kick off in the screen.
Yes, great. And hello, Kari. Kari, Kankanpe.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, very good.
Fantastic.
We still have some problem getting a hold of Juni. So, and I will try to moderate this event. I'm so glad you are here. So, and I will introduce you, and maybe I will also be Juni in the beginning and say some short words about the call on carbon. And then we kick off, and I'll start with Ylva. And we're still missing Stockholm, I see. I noticed. So we have Ylva, Odd, Leila, Sverre, and we don't have Sverre here as well. Jonas, Katarina, Carol, and Kari. And then Björn will have some final remarks.
Yeah, and Katarina has some issues to join.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here, because I'm not sure how to attend. Yeah.
I thought it was a test.
A test of, yeah.
Oh, how good you are in complicated things.
But I wouldn't be here then.
But I was getting help.
Same with me. A lot of help.
This is never ever use Hopin again. But that was not our suggestions. ICC that's using this platform, and it's yeah. We will see, and I think we also are one of the first webinars. So I think we are yeah. We have to see what Katarina. Do you know if we can respond here? Yeah. So, and I don't know if we're good to mute ourselves or someone else is muting. Do you know that? Anyone knows about? I'm finding a button here.
It's on the very much below, and I think we can mute ourselves till our time comes.
Yes, so that's a good idea to mute yourself, but maybe you should have your camera, or maybe not. I don't know. I'll see how that works. I'm afraid of pushing the buttons because I'm afraid of disappearing. And Juni says, please introduce colon carbon. Just sent the slides. I don't know how to share.
But Nina, maybe you don't need the slides.
No, I'll do it without the slides.
Because so I think you can just softly introduce the initiative, the motivation, and so on, and then we can listen to the guests from the business.
Exactly.
And I would propose that we all just keep the camera on, but as you said, we can mute ourselves when we are not talking.
Yes. I wonder, do anyone know when we start? No.
I am not sure, so I guess either we get some kind of a notice in this chat from an organizer. I see it is an organizer there now, chatting. If not, I would propose we just start like 1 minute after 9.
And Anna at Wolf's Digital, if you can hear us, can you give us a signal when we should start? You're already live, so feel free to start. Okay, we'll wait 1 minute, so we'll start at 10. Great, thank you, Anna. So good morning, everyone, and good morning, Glasgow. Very welcome to the webinar, How to Ramp Up Investments and How to Increase the Profitability of Climate Solutions. This is a webinar arranged by the business networks in the Nordics, CLC from Finland, Skift from Norway, and Haga Initiative from Sweden. My name is Nina Ekelund, and I'm the CEO of the Haga Initiative, the business network in Sweden. So, the Haga Initiative strives towards a profitable business sector without climate impact. And the Haga Initiative's company members, they have decided to become fossil-free, fuel-free within their own operations until 2030. Or net zero emissions. And we also have, and that is 15 years ahead of the Swedish government's climate goals. And we also have a strategy for 1.5 degrees. And we began this call on carbon collaboration this spring with our Nordic colleagues. So why did we do this? We need to fivefold the ambitions to stay within 1.5 degrees. And to enable these ambitions, we need green investments. The market needs predictability. And therefore, carbon pricing is one of the most sufficient incentives that we need to use. So the call on carbon now have a lot of companies, business network, cities, university, that have signed the call on carbon. And if I would say approximately 1/4 of the businesses in the world is backing the call on carbon. And what have we said? The businesses and the business networks and cities and university, they call on governments to, 1, back the net zero targets with effective, robust, reliable, and fit-for-purpose carbon pricing instruments that is consistent with the Paris Agreement, to facilitate a cost-efficient investment path to reach net zero emissions. 2, align the carbon pricing instruments with appropriate to create a stable and predictable investment environment. And that's really important now on the COP26 to finalize the rules for international market mechanism under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement to support cost-effective mitigation efforts, create a level playing field, and minimize carbon leakage while enabling greater ambitions. And if you want to sign Call on Carbon, you can find it at calloncarbon.com. And during this webinar, we will listen to a fantastic list of speakers that will give you insights how carbon pricing increases profitability of climate solution and how it benefits industries. So we will run through this, and I would like to welcome you to this webinar. And I would like to present our first speaker, and that is Ylva Wessén. She's the president and CEO at Folksam, and she will talk on how carbon pricing benefits industries. Please, Ylva. The sound. Now we can see we can hear you. No?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Perfect, Ylva. Perfect.
Thank you. See. Good morning to you all, and thank you, Nina. And I will start with saying that no one wants to live in a broken world. And that's where we are heading. Just some examples from this summer. This summer we had flooding in Europe due to extreme rain. We had the worst rain in 20 years in Stockholm and Gävle in Sweden. But we also have drought. And at the same time, the Taliban's taking power in Afghanistan. At the same time, that country, Afghanistan, has had the most extreme drought in 15 years in the country. We have had maritime heat wave in the Baltic Sea, and it goes on and it goes on. And that's why we have joined the Haga initiative and signed Call on Carbon, because we have to act now. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with the video game Minecraft. It's a video game developed in Sweden with more than 140 million players globally. And in this game, you can gather resources to build and create your world. But you can play this game in 2 different modes. You can either choose creative mode, where you have unlimited resources and you can build anything. And you can also play it in survival mode. And in survival mode, you must fight and compete for the resources to maintain your health. And of course, we are not in a video game, but I think we have something to learn from Minecraft. And this world is not yet in survival mode, but we have to stop pretending that we have unlimited resources. And we want the COP26 to be a true game changer. And Folksam has signed Call on Carbon because we believe that net zero targets will only be reached with effective, robust, reliable, and fit-for-purpose carbon pricing investments, consistent with the Paris Agreement to facilitate the cost-efficient investment path to reach the net zero emissions. And we, the pension and insurance industry, we can play a key role in this transition but we have to show leadership. And I will give you 2 examples from my company, Folksam. Folksam has invested over $3.7 billion in green bonds. And one example of the green bonds is for building walls to prevent flooding in the south of Sweden. And green bonds can finance new technology or infrastructure that the world needs to reduce carbon emissions or to soften the consequences. Folksam has also invested in a steel producer, SSAB, to support their project to develop carbon-free steel. And this will temporarily increase the carbon footprint in our own investment portfolio. But in long term, this investment can have a significant importance. Steel productions accounts for around 8% of global greenhouse emissions. And insurance and pensions funds can manage capital in a way that contributes to sustainable development and to a net zero goal. But to solve what might be the most complex problem in human history, we need to cooperate and we need to scale up. And that is why Folksam has co-founded the UN-convened Net Zero Asset Owner Alliance, which is a group of international asset owners with a common agenda. And I had the opportunity to speak at a meeting with the UN Secretary General earlier this year. And after the meeting, he called our work the gold standard when it comes to work against net zero emissions. From the beginning, we were 7 initiators to the UN-convened Net Zero Asset Owner Alliance. Today, we are more than 60 members, and we manage together around $10 trillion, looking for investments on the path to a net zero emissions. $10 trillion. Only the United States and China has a larger state budget than this Asset Owner Alliance. And a key ask from us in the Net Zero Alliance is that all countries set legally binding net zero targets supported by regulated carbon pricing measures, detailed implementation plans, and interim emissions reductions milestones. And we would like to see a carbon price floors and ceilings. And OECD estimates that to reach the net zero by 2050, a carbon price of $147 per ton by 2030 is needed. And that is 3 times the EU carbon price at the moment. And looking at Sweden, we have had a carbon price since the 90s. And as a carbon tax, it was introduced in 1991. And since then, the gas emissions in Sweden have been cut by 29%, and the GDP has risen by 84%. So it's clearly possible to combine the carbon pricing with economical growth. I will stop there and thank you for listening, and let's cooperate and stay out of survival mood. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ylva Wirsén, President and CEO of Folksam. So I would like to introduce Odd Arild Grefstad, CEO of Storebrand. Please, Odd.
Thank you, Nina, and thank you, Ylva, for that great introduction to the team. And you also give the background for why this is really needed. Storebrand is also a life pension asset manager company in Norway. We are very active in the Skift network and also believe in cooperation. Was also one of the founders of the Net Zero Asset Owner Alliance. I think to move to a low emission economy, we need us as consumers, corporates, governments to make significant changes. We as consumers, customers, needs to be much more conscious in our choices, and corporates need to align their operations and productions towards a net zero economy. As investors and lenders, we take our responsibility. Ylva has already talked about it, but more and more of the finance industry commits to the net zero asset owner alliances and the net zero in 2050. That is, of course, very positive. But 2050 is a long time from now, so we need also to see much shorter effects. And in Storebrand, we have set also clear goals for shorter term. So we will cut our emissions stemming from our investments by 32% until 2025. We do this because, of course, because it's the right thing to do, but also because we believe that this reduces the risks and secure long-term return for our customers. And here comes a very important role for governments. Politicians can make this happen by reorientating their incentives. They can make the right thing be less risky and more profitable. Today, a large part of fossil fuel producers receive subsidies. This needs to change. We need to subsidize the green solutions and tax the grey ones. Governments can mobilize the power in the finance system further, but then the market needs to see a strong and predictable pathway in carbon pricing in order to adapt business strategies. Putting a price on carbon is widely recognized as the most effective means to drive innovations and energy efficiency in order to reduce greenhouse gases. And there should actually be both short-term carbon prices implemented as soon as possible and hopefully aligned between countries, and a clear direction of increase on the tax up to 2030 with an escalation plan. Canada, for example, have implemented a minimum national carbon pollution price schedule, where carbon prices increases with 15 Canadian dollar every year up to 2030, where it will then be at a level of 170 Canadian dollar per ton. Investors in Canada must take this into calculation to invest when they do their investment decisions. And this, of course, tipping the projects in favor for renewable solutions. So governments actually have to tax what they want less of and give incentives to what they want more of. It's as easy and difficult as that. And it is when investors, companies, and governments come together, success becomes real, and every stakeholder must do their part. But governments can make the right decisions, also be less risky and more profitable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Odd Arild Grefstad, CFO at Storebrand. Thank you so much. So now we move over to H&M Group and to Leila Artur, Head of Sustainability at H&M Group. Please, Leila.
Thank you very much. Little bit building a ground where we are on this. We are very much aware that fashion has a big impact on climate. We also know that it has a big role to play in reducing emissions. If we continue to use resources in current linear way, we know that fashion industry will stand as much as 30% of world carbon budget by 2050. And if we work with these numbers, if we don't work with these numbers, we know that this can even be much bigger. We'll be joining our forces with...
Excellent. Thanks.
Sorry?
No worry, you can continue. It was just some sound from...
Okay. Okay, I thought my voice was lacking, but to be able to continue with this work, we will be joining our forces with our partners to discuss issues and raise awareness and on the measures. How can we find solutions together? Our carbon emission puzzle comes in fourfold, and that includes also the investments and finance. The first one, we start with ourselves, setting our group-wise targets. What should be our ambition? And our ambition is to halve our emissions by 2030 and become climate positive by 2040. This needs reducing more greenhouse emission than what our value chain emits to. It's a challenging goal, and it needs to be run in different streams. With ourselves, with our business partners, with our stakeholders in regions we operate, but is most importantly, as it's been mentioned, through the policymakers, reinstating legislations and the incentives towards net zero. Because we all know that it's the biggest play that governments can influence the situation. It's very much important that we also know from the very beginning, our ambition is much bigger than ourselves and our resources as a company. There is no way we will be able to change the whole industry just with our own resources, which will stand less than 2% of global fashion industry. Therefore, also we look for what can we do innovatively to figure out how can we get extra finances in. Here we set up sustainability linked bond framework, which is issued as a first bond for $500 million, which is directly connected to sustainability-based ambitions to actual finance commitments. It's the first time we are doing this, and it's very much on top of we are looking after other financial setups in our sourcing countries to open for competitors and pure financial investors to co-invest with us, increase the scope and reach our impact. We also work with carbon pricing tool and positive roadmap tool to prioritize how can we navigate investments in best way. We needed to increase the knowledge both in ourselves, in our business partners, in policymakers, but most importantly, our investors. It's very much knowing that with limited technologies, we should focus on how, which country, what solution, where to start, with supplier we can invest together to create the biggest impact. And here again, we do see governments are big players to gain this game. Look, thinking about the countries where we have our value chain, which could be Bangladesh, which could be China, Cambodia, here we need stronger policies to helping us moving from coal boilers in production and turn to new technologies. And we know that we need to invest together. We know that we have to invest technology, we have to invest innovation. We all know that our processes need new technologies to become climate positive already in 2040. It's the tool itself which we are using, climate positive roadmap tool. It's just the data what we are putting into. The impact will come in putting our forces together and very much navigating investments in right places and being transparent to our customers first to influence their choices, then finance industries to make sure that we continue investing like we are doing this year to solar panels, changes on boilers, changes in production processes, finding new materials which emit less carbon, and also finding new technologies which help us to become even more positive. It's very much we work together, push policymakers, push ourselves for newness, and we get this global progression all throughout the years. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Leila Ertur, Head of Sustainability in H&M Group. And I will move over to Sverre Tornes, CEO at KLP. Hello, Sverre.
Hello there.
So, please.
Thank you. After some technical problems in the start, I am so happy to be with you on this very important topic. At KLP, we manage the pension funds of most Norwegian municipalities, counties, health enterprises, and companies affiliated to the public sector. Managing these funds is a great responsibility, and today we have investments in more than 7,000 companies globally, with the goal to have as high a return on our asset as possible within our risk tolerance. At the same time, we are challenged to invest in a way that will support the Sustainable Development Goals, with a special focus on climate change. The change to a green economy will need financing, and we as investors will play an important role. At KLP, we have set our own net zero target and developed a roadmap for this. It is challenging, but nothing less than necessary. Together, we will find ways to describe and measure companies and their contribution to reduce global warming. We see a lot of goodwill and high ambitions among the companies in our portfolio, but less real change. We see governments reluctant to introduce regulation that will hurt their existing industries, even those with high emissions. It is understandable, but dangerous for both the climate and long-term for the industries that do not change in time. Action is required to speed up the efforts to reduce emissions and pave the way for the climate solutions we need. Since the challenge is global, we need to see global solutions, and a global mechanism to price carbon in an effective, robust, and reliable way seems to us the single most effective policy action. By putting a price on emission, we can make sure that the profitability of those companies who emit will be hurt and give market opportunities for companies with alternative solutions. Investors will, in their search for a return, reallocate their investments likewise, reducing investments in the company with high emissions and increasing their investments in alternative solutions, and thereby provide capital to the much-needed transition to a greener economy. KLP has, together with public and private partners, made an analysis of the consequence of introduction of more stringent climate policies for international shipping as an example. We have modeled the effect of many different policy instruments, with carbon pricing being one of them. The results here suggest that when carbon prices reach 200 and moves towards $300 per ton, then from a pure profit maximizing reason, the world fleet will move from using heavy fuel oil and other oil derivatives towards zero emission fuels, such as ammonia. We furthermore show that if there would be predictability in the market that carbon prices will increase to these levels, then already today it will be more profitable to invest in zero emission ships rather than conventional ships. The shift of investment into alternative solution has started, but a global carbon pricing mechanism that increases the price of carbon in a substantial and predictable way is necessary, in our view, to speed this up to a level that makes it possible to reach our common goal of reducing global warming in accordance with the Paris Agreement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sverre Thornes, CEO at KLP. And then we move over to Jonas Gustafsson, CEO at AFRY. Please.
Thank you so much. And let me start by just saying that I was during the weekend participating in an event with the Royal Academy of Science in Stockholm here, and one of the speakers said, "I am an engineer, and that's why I am positive." And I'm heading up a group called AFRY, and we have roughly 17,000 engineers. And we are a company that has a history of 120 years, and we've been active very much in the forest industry, bioindustry, but also energy since long time back. And I will not repeat all the smart things said already before. I agree on them. We have seen the power of carbon pricing, how that can be an effective way of steering investments. Because what we see now is that, I mean, the good thing is that the technologies that we need is available. It's more about steering investments in the right places right now. And of course, we have seen over the last years a pretty, I wouldn't say exponential, but pretty interesting development just over the last 5 years in, I would say, progressive companies that based on things like carbon pricing, but also being ahead of the game, being bold, taking a step to what will be the future, and they will be the leaders. I think SSAB was mentioned, who is now taking a step to making green steel. And I know Volvo is the first one that has actually already booked up the volume to make sure that the cars they are selling will have that kind of steel. So I think we start to see the momentum from the consumers also. And we believe both with the, as it was said, global carbon pricing, and that you can push that legislation as much as possible. and the push from consumers, I believe there will be a good development on green investment. The question is, will it be fast enough? And I guess here, all the things said from Odd and Sverre also about and Ylva about how do you steer investments in the right place? Because I would say, as an engineer, the irony is that the solutions exist. There are discussions related to permissions, because some of these new investments needs to be built out in a balanced way faster than it was done 50 or 100 years ago in the last industrial revolution. We need to have speed in offshore wind. We need to have speed in setting up that green energy that we need. And another thing I want to say is that we also need to look on this in a global way. We are active in a project called Renew Africa, where the whole idea is that one of the best things we can do is to use the modern technology in build out of new energy plants in Africa. Instead of investing in the old technology, we need to make sure that money is existing. So I just want to stop on that. With all the things said, that the carbon pricing is one good way of steering investment. But again, then I'm positive because the solution exists. But of course, we need to speed up and ramp up everything related to legislation, because then I think we can make it together. We need to be bold, we need to be brave, and we need to work in partnership more than ever before. And then I think there's a good chance that this can be made. But investments needs to be steered to where it makes a difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jonas Gustafsson, CEO at AFRY. So now we will listen to our first city of Stockholm. Katarina Lur, hi. And you're the Vice Mayor in Stockholm City, please.
Hello, Nina. Thank you for letting me talk today. As Vice Mayor for Environment and Climate in the City of Stockholm, I represent a different perspective than you do as business leaders. Therefore, what I want to share with you is a city perspective, why I believe that putting a price on carbon, if properly designed, can be a solution to many challenges that we face in the urban environment. To get you on board on my thinking, let me recap the challenges we face in Stockholm and in many other cities on our journey towards becoming climate positive and fossil fuel free. The City of Stockholm currently has a goal to be climate positive and fossil fuel free in 2040. For the city organization itself, the goal is to be fossil fuel free already in 2030. And since 1990, citywide, we have already reduced our CO2 emissions per capita by over 68%, surpassing the goals set by most nation states for 2030. But this is, of course, not a one-person job. Despite our ambitious environmental and climate policies, the city's own organization only stands for 10% of the citywide emissions, which stresses the importance of a joint effort from all actors located in Stockholm. Thus, if we are serious about contributing to the 1.5-degree target, we have to find ways to address everyone. We have therefore initiated several climate initiatives in Stockholm, and among other things, we have a city business climate pact in place since 2007 to involve all businesses at large. And now we're 350 members in this pact. Still, there are several sectors and areas where reductions are not fast enough. One of those is the transport sector, where emissions does not decrease as fast as needed. Even though the percentage of electric vehicles is increasing and fossil fuels engines are getting more efficient, reductions are not taking place at the desired speed. And this is a huge challenge for mayors all over the world trying to cut their city's emissions. Another important city-related topic is waste, as most city governments are responsible for the collection and handling of it. And one important challenge is the amount of plastic made from an oil base that is being incinerated, and which contributes significantly to the city's CO2 emissions, as also in Stockholm. A third area that has a huge impact on the city's emissions is the construction sector. Like many other cities, Stockholm is attracting talents and companies from all over the world, and properties are desperately needed to live in and work in. Unfortunately, construction work has a large carbon footprint. So what is the common denominator regarding these challenges? These are areas where regulations at the city levels are not enough to fully address the challenges, and areas where the price of carbon is not fully accounted for in the price paid by the customers or by us as a city. So today, someone else is paying the price of our carbon emissions, and it will be paid for by generations to come, and often in countries far away from where the benefits once were reaped. So it is clear that we need business models where it pays off to be climate friendly. And in Sweden, as we heard, we have had a carbon tax since 1991, and within the European Union, we have an emission trading system. Even if these are not flawless, they are a step in the right direction, showing that pricing carbon can steer towards more sustainable investment choices, which have real effects on the ground and in cities. But pricing carbon only in certain regions of the world will not be enough. We are in a global climate crisis, and the solution to fight it has to be global. Agreeing on pricing carbon, and specifically on the design of it, will not be an easy task for the national delegations to the COP. So I'm therefore glad to see the business sector mobilizing to push for change. I'm confident that price on carbon really could shift the way societies and business work, and would most definitely accelerate the climate efforts carried out by progressive cities and nations around the world. So thank you everyone for your work, and I very much look forward to push for change together with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katarina Lu, Vice Mayor of the City of Stockholm. So now I would like to introduce Karel Gubczynski, who's the head of climate and energy at Inca Group, IKEA. Please, Karel.
Thank you, Nina, and it's such a pleasure to talk about such amazing speakers and who brought the perspective from such different areas. So Inca Group is one of the companies working under IKEA brand, bringing IKEA to the people across 32 markets. And as a company, we have a big responsibility as well to reduce emissions and in line with IPCC. So to halve the greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 and reach net zero latest 2050. We said that by 2030, we would like to go beyond reducing the emissions of our value chain and take actions as well within the society to reduce the climate footprint, like using the investments within the recycling infrastructure. And great example is coming from, for example, Netherlands, where we invested to be able to recycle the same amount of mattresses as being disposed by individuals within the country. And as IKEA, we have a beautiful vision to create better everyday life for the many people. And we know we cannot create better everyday life for the many people without taking climate action. And climate change is impacting basic human rights. As Katarina mentioned, the people are being impacted, and through access to food, water, as well as housing, it's impacting people's health and lives. And it's impacting people, but as well other species. And climate scientists are clear that we need to halve the emissions by 2030 and reach net zero. The business sector just received a clear guidance and standard from Science Based Targets initiative last week. What does it mean to take the credible net zero claims, which brings clarity for the financial institutions as well, how to compare different net zero claims by the companies. And when it comes to the reduction of the emissions, of course, long-term commitments are important, but what is more important, it's actions here and now. And we cannot take relevant actions within the regulations and policy which are needed now. And one of them is carbon pricing, and that's why IKEA supports the carbon pricing as one of the measures, which is very important to be aligned with IPCC. And the cost level need to include the cost of climate change and future costs that we will need to do with. So it is important to bring the relevant level of the carbon pricing to enable the deep transition and decarbonization. And next one, of course, we are still subsidizing the fossil fuels on the big scale, and the public money is being used to accelerate the climate change. And this needs to stop, and that's one of our calls during COP26. Carbon offsets cannot be easy way to buy yourself out of the decarbonization. Companies and as well as cities, as well as governments, need to go through the deep decarbonization pathway without looking for an easy way to buy yourself out from the problem. And of course, harmonization. This is really important that carbon pricing is harmonized across as many countries as possible and as many sectors as possible, and bring the predictability for the business to act. Because then we will see the acceleration of implementation of the solutions. With Jonas mentioned that there are many solutions available and we need to just implement them and get it done. And of course, when we design the carbon pricing mechanism, we have amazing opportunity to secure better life for the people, to secure just transition. So people who are impacted by the transitions are being factored and supported, including energy poverty. We know that energy poverty is a big issue, and we need to use the carbon pricing mechanism to enable the people with thinner wallets to be able to be part of the solution. Because we know that majority of greenhouse gas emissions are not coming from people who are living thinnest wallets. And this is why we support a call for carbon as IKEA and the Inca Group. And this is a very important measure. And as a company, we are committed to invest within decarbonization. We invested 2.5 billion into renewable energy generation across the European Union as well as North America during the last 12 years. And Inca Group just committed additional 4 billion euro to invest in renewable energy, including markets like Russia, China, South Korea, India, to secure renewable energy use within the operations as well as value chain. Because we know companies need to take responsibility for full value chain, including supply chain, as well as downstream emissions connected to enabling people to live within the low carbon way. Just to close up, people are waiting, people want to act. 9 of 10 people, IKEA customers, want to take actions. They still struggle to bring their ambition into daily life because of the governments and businesses, because we need to step up and enable people to live within a low carbon way, in affordable and convenient way. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Karl Gubczynski, Head of Climate and Energy at Inca Group. Thank you so much. So let's move over to Kari Kankampää, Head of Public Affairs at Fortum. Please.
Good morning to everyone. So my name is Kari Kankampää and I'm working as Head of Public Affairs at Fortum in Finland. So Fortum is a European energy company and we have activities globally in more than 40 countries and we are the third largest producer of CO2-free electricity in Europe. Fortum is also one of the founding members of Climate Leadership Coalition in Finland. So this coalition was founded in 2014 and it is the largest non-profit climate business network in Europe. CLC has currently almost 90 organizational members and more than 50 personal members. And our members represent almost 70% of the market capital in the Nasdaq Helsinki Stock Exchange. Well, Fortum has been a strong supporter of market-based instruments to mitigate climate change. This is simply because carbon pricing is cost-efficient, technology-neutral, and flexible. We introduced company's internal climate fund already in year 2000, and we were also one of the founding members of the world's first carbon fund, the prototype carbon fund of the World Bank. And since then, we have been advocating for the EU emissions trading system. And of course, we have signed the call on carbon initiatives. Then, how carbon pricing is benefiting industries. Energy transition is a huge challenge, and according to the International Energy Agency, we need globally $4 billion investments annually by 2030. They also estimate that 75% of the investments should come from private sector. Carbon pricing and carbon market is one important factor to mobilize these investments, because it can create long-term competitive advantage for low carbon and energy efficient businesses, for example, through cost reduction and production efficiency. In practice, in companies, when we consider investments into CO2-free power generation, either as extension of the lifetime of existing assets or building of completely new assets. So we always look at the balance of electricity. Will the electricity market need the new generation? But equally, we also look at carbon. So does the carbon market look tight to remunerate CO2-free generation? Actually, the tightening carbon market has been one of the reasons behind Fortum's investment into our subsidiary Uniper, which increased our CO2-free power generation by 60%. And after that, we became the third largest producer of CO2-free electricity in Europe. But of course, carbon market includes uncertainties. But despite that, we think that technology-neutral carbon market is a far better investment framework than any kind of ad hoc policies that are targeting specific technologies or countries. These kind of ad hoc policies, they typically change when the governments are changing. However, climate change mitigation is a long-term challenge. And a carbon market that is configured to the long-term climate targets, it is the best overarching policy to deliver the needed investments in mitigation. In climate change mitigation, it is important that we don't engage in decarbonization on a treadmill, namely building new renewables while also closing down existing CO2-free generation at the same time, for example, nuclear. Of course, this will result in very little net increase in CO2-free generation. Having carbon market as the main emission reduction policy ensures that existing CO2-free assets are not discriminated against, which is often the case with other energy and climate policies. Because, however, we believe that Europe needs all existing CO2-free generation and much more in the future. Then one direct benefit still from carbon pricing. So low carbon and carbon-free energy production is rewarded under a cap and trade system like the EU ETS, because it does not need to purchase emission allowances. And at the same time, CO2 allowance price is among the most decisive factors affecting the electricity price. And in most markets, it is passed through to the power price. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kari Kankaanpää, Head of Public Affairs at Fortum. Thank you so much. So now we've really heard a lot of perspectives from companies and one city about carbon pricing. We've heard about high ambitions, we've heard about targets, and the need of carbon pricing that is important for the investments, and also mentioned that we need to harmonize and get so many countries as possible to higher their ambition on carbon pricing. And also that would lead to acceleration among solutions. So thank you so much all for your perspectives. I just want to say you can read here in the chat also from Jimmy Keronen, who is a big part of Call on Carbon, and he's the CEO for the Finnish network CLC. And I will soon hand over to Björn, my colleague in Norway, who is heading Skift Business Climate Leaders. But I just want to say, last week, we sent a letter to 196 heads of state. And I put the link up in the chat, and you can read the letter. Because we want to tell the world and the world leaders that almost 25% of the businesses in the world have called upon carbon pricing. And that is so important because we have businesses, business organizations, cities, universities backing call on carbon. So that is so important for you on the Glasgow COP26 meeting to remind them of this letter, and we have sent it to them. And also one point that I should mention, of all the emissions today, it's only 25% that has the price on carbon. And out of this 25%, it's only around 5% that has an effective price on carbon. So you see the big possibilities that we have in front of us using carbon price. So, Björn Haugland, CEO of Skift, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for being so effective, leaving a lot of time for me to make my concluding remarks. So but it has been so nice to listen to all of you, because this is really a Nordic voice, a Nordic leadership into the COP26 and into the world. And we are located far north, the Nordic countries, but I think we have a particular opportunity to make the Nordic region as a laboratory for climate solutions, because we are rich on competence. We have high trust in our societies. We have a lot of technology, and we can implement technology from all over the world, making this region really a showcase for and a leading star for the transition. And many of you have pointed on your willingness to work collaborative, to do partnership, and I think that is very much what the world need, and where the Nordic business sector, together with cities and government, can make a demonstration and show the leadership and show the action on how we are doing. So while listening to you, I will just make some of the quotes which I in particular noticed. Ylva, in Folksam, you started to say, nobody wants to live in a broken world. And I think that is so right. And we have seen so much of that recently. Odd Arild followed up on the very basic shift there. We need to subsidize green technologies, and we need to tax the gray, just to make this transition going. And that's just all of what Call on Carbon is all about. Leila in the HM group really emphasized on taking a entire value chain and supply chain perspective in order to get the change needed for your own business. So I think that is also what we all know and what we all need to do. Sverre Thorne has pointed on the real role of finance, but also on all the barriers out there, and in particular how the shipping industry can be and are doing a lot of examples of moving in the right direction. But it has been a lot of changes in the finance industry, and I think the finance industry now is really in the core of the transition. And I must admit, I really loved what Jonas in Afri said, because I am an engineer myself. So you said I'm an engineer, that's why I am positive. But you pointed on that so many solutions are already existing. it's more about getting the solutions in action, so to speak. And Katarina from the city of Stockholm, with this great ambition of being climate positive, I think you really demonstrated to us how you work together with the business sector, and how you as a city invite the business sector to be integrated in the work you are doing. So I think that's a great lesson for all of us. And with Carol in the Inca group also demonstrated the importance of working with the entire value chain in order to fulfill the vision of the Inca group and of IKEA. You are depending on your whole supply chain and value chain in order to succeed. And I think also Kari from Fortum, I think you made the kind of the core of it. Climate carbon pricing is cost effective, it's technology neutral, it's flexible, and it has many places in the world already demonstrated that it works. So that is basically our call on carbon to COP26 and to the whole world. And that's why we have started this initiative. And COP26 is just one of our milestones going forward. So all of you listening to us today, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to the Nordic perspective on this. You can all sign up on Call on Carbon on our website. We would love to see more supporters of this initiative. And finally, I will just thank you to our Nordic organizers of this. So thank you, Nina, for taking the leadership you are doing in the Haga initiatives together with your members. Particular thank you to Juni in CLC, which had some trouble to connect to us, but I know you are listening to us. So Juni, you have really been the leader and the driver for the whole initiatives together with us. Thank you for that leadership. And then thank you again to all of you for contributing. This is the Nordic voice and leadership to COP26. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
After this, we can all succeed in connecting to any platforms out in the world.
Exactly. And even not sure if we are live or not anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Have a good day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.